2025 was a down year in the gun industry in general. A soft economy and no panic buying led to what felt like a pretty stagnant year. So I picked my top 5 guns that I reviewed and did some analysis on all the guns I reviewed, as well as what I could find for the new releases for 2025, and this should be interesting. So first, I gathered some data on what I consider sort of the handgun market as a whole. I didn't do like all the guns. There's a ton of small brands that import stuff, and some brands that aren't small that import stuff that I didn't use in the list. And there were about 44 new releases, not including reskins or collector's editions. I didn't include those because realistically, it's just, that's what it is and it's not worth talking about. And then Glock made it difficult by releasing both the Series V and the Gen 6. Like the week that I started putting this list together, Glock announced the Gen 6 and I had to go redo all the numbers. So including the Series V Glocks as just one model, since it's basically a relaunch of the whole Gen 5 series, so they only count as one. And the Gen 6 pistols, I counted each as a pistol because there are only 3. The numbers are as follows. There are approximately 44 pistols from major brands released in 2025 with an average MSRP of $1,219. Yeah, big dollars there. I know that's a theme on my channel, like, yeah, it's an expensive gun. Turns out they're all expensive. About 86% of the pistols were available in 9mm, and 25% of those pistols were ported or compensated. And the lowest MSRP on the guns we saw that released this year of the major brands was about $449. I didn't actually pull stats on how many of them were optics ready, but if I had to guess, at least 80% of the new models were optics ready. There were some self-defense guns that were released which were not optics ready, but generally speaking, a 9mm handgun at this point has optics ready capability. And we saw the first, I would say, major brand of a gun that launched with red dot only, like the irons are truly backups in the Staccato HD series of pistol. The irons forward sights means that if you don't have a red dot, you have shrunk your sight radius by about 2 inches on a pistol, which erodes your ability to hit with iron sights. But what was most interesting to me was the fact that the price of a gun is up to about the $1,000 price point for what like a good gun is. That led to me having kind of like a you're getting old moment, where in my mind a duty or service gun is about $500 to $600, and it still is largely. But all of the innovation and the new models that are being pushed by the manufacturers for the civilian market seem to be concentrated around the $1,000 price point. Some of the MSRPs that we looked at from these production builders were over $2,000, so there were big dollars reviewed here. A common comment I get on videos throughout the year is, how come you don't review affordable guns? And the answer is that they're not really making them so much anymore. Those smaller brands that I didn't include in the list are generally your more affordable guns, or their Glock clones. Those are the more affordable guns in the market. As far as my channel is concerned, I reviewed 34 guns this year. My average price was a little bit higher at just over $2,000 at $2,050. I've got fancy taste. I'm a fancy man, as I've told you, with my pistol rest. Single action only guns in general were about 60%, whereas striker guns were about 20%. I had 3% rifle, 3% PCC, and 11% DASA. Of those single action only guns, 12 of the 21 that I reviewed were 2011 variants. So about a third of the videos on my channel were about 2011 pistols, which some of you guys have rightly called out in the comments because it's my favorite platform. And of the guns that I looked at this year, 26% were ported or compensated, which is completely in line with what the market was doing. So take that data, make of it what you wish. I thought it was interesting, so now I've shared it with you. Now on to my favorites. I usually like to include an honorable mention, a gun that I didn't feel strongly enough about to include as one of my top 5. But if it was top 6, it would definitely make the cut. And that gun is the Tanfoglio Stockmaster Extreme. Why I like this gun is it is a double action, single action gun. It has a steel frame, so it is kind of that Goldilocks zone, being in the low 40 ounces, mid 40 ounces in weight. It has a very nice double single trigger. That is not a CZ. I think the Tanfoglio frames are superior to the CZ frames for a shooter. There's more space on the gun to get your support hand to help manage recoil. And it is hard chromed, which is my favorite weapons finish. I think hard chrome is incredible, and there's just not many options available that have it. So there's one there. Now the other 5 guns, there is one I would say that is number 1, but the other ones are pretty similar in how I view them. So in no particular order of the top 4, and we'll finish with my favorite. Now one gun I felt was significant because of the price that it sells at. It had the lowest MSRP of that $449. It is the Ruger RXM, or the rug pull, or the Wrexham, whatever you choose to call it, being sold at just under $400 at a street price. It has Glock capability and, you know, Glock functionality largely. It's a pretty nice gun and it's pretty reasonably affordable. Moving up in price, and I can say confidently, most of you didn't watch this video, but I thought it was cool, and it is the FK Bruno PSDC. It is not a whole lot bigger than a Glock 19. It's slightly longer in the snout than a Glock 19. However, it shoots the 7.5 FK, which back in the day we used to do like boutique rounds and stuff like that. This is a round that is basically nearly delivering rifle ballistics out of a pistol. That's right, 95 grains at 1800 foot per second at the muzzle. The only gel test I did this year was with this pistol. Oh my gosh! Holy cow! Okay, so real quickly, on the left you see the flat nose, and the flat nose is throwing off a lot of damage as it goes through the block, and it went all the way through the block. But the hollow point, the fragmenting nose, or whatever they're calling this stuff, look at all of this. And the fact that the OEM sells replacement barrels and the magazines accept like 10mm, you can get a replacement barrel and swap it for a 10mm and it works just as well. It is a really cool pistol. It is single action only, and it is a sidearm that would be suitable for like hunting and stuff like that. It punches pretty hard, and it's still really controllable and really shootable. So it's a really cool pistol. Moving up even further in price, and if you follow the channel, you'll know that I never really fell in love with the Staccato C2 that I ended up buying myself, but the Staccato HD C3.6 I think is a special gun. It shoots super duper well. The Staccato HD P4 is a good gun, but I didn't really fall in love with it. There's just something special about the C3.6. It is roughly Glock 19 size. It has a good single action only trigger and is fully ambi if you care about that. And I just think it's a nice gun. It is actually in my carry rotation now because it's a more concealable, lighter weight gun. And what's funny about it is I don't shoot it necessarily any better. In fact, I shoot it about the same as the Staccato C2. So it just feels like a special gun when you shoot it, and that's why it made the list. I actually like the C3.6, where for whatever reason I never liked my C2. Weird. Moving way up in price to one of the more expensive guns I looked at this year. In fact, it was a manufacturer that is so small it didn't make my list of major manufacturers, but it is the Fowler Industries Vanta 9. This gun is an heirloom grade firearm. It is a super nice 5-inch 2011. It's probably my favorite 2011 that I've shot so far. It's just super duper nice, super duper tightly fit. Like, it is truly an heirloom grade, very fine weapon. The attention to detail and all the fine machining on the pistol just make a super nice gun. It is just completely immaculate with how they put it together. It is a truly special pistol, and it was one of my favorites I shot this year. And my favorite gun this year made the list not because it does something all the other guns don't, but purely because it is my favorite in how it looks. And you guys can totally make fun of me for being foppish about it because it is the prettiest gun I've looked at, and it's probably my favorite looking production gun. It is the Kimber 2K11 Pro Royal Finish. It is this beautiful, beautiful PVD kind of chocolate brown sort of color, almost has sort of a purplish tint to it. It's just an absolutely gorgeous pistol, and it shoots really well, coming in at about 37 ounces. It's a Commander 2011. I like it so much that it is my main carry gun pretty much since it came out, using the Staccato when I need better concealment. So mock me if you want, picking a gun based largely around aesthetic reasons, but they're great shooting guns. I like 2011s. This is the best looking 2011 that one of the major manufacturers is making, so it made my list. I just think it's an absolutely gorgeous pistol. When you review a lot of guns, it's tough to get excited about pistols because they all kind of look and function the same largely. And this one just kind of has that extra kick over the edge with the super pretty finish and the really awesome grip. Like, the Pro Royal is probably my favorite gun of 2025. So that's where I landed on my 2025 list. I'd be curious to know what your favorite pistol is that you shot in 2025. What didn't make the list and probably should have? Let me know in the comments below. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you guys on the next one.